everyone, welcome back. My name is Leslie, and last week you guys worked on your own personalized gardens by collaging with found objects and materials from your own house. Hopefully you guys had a blast with that. This week we're going to be working on marker monoprints, which might look something like this. So as we go through this video, I will explain the process of how to make a marker monoprint, but let's start off with what materials you need to begin with. Alright, for this project, this is what you're going to need. You're going to need a pencil, a few sheets of paper. Computer paper is fine, but you can also use sketchbook paper. That's what I'm going to be using. A pair of scissors, a Sharpie, a permanent marker is nice to have for this assignment. And then we also have these Crayola markers, but these are washable and that's okay. I actually want washable markers for this assignment. All right, and then we have a plastic bag, and you can use any type of plastic bag, just make sure that it's gonna hold like the shape of this rectangle well. So like if you were using saran wrap, that's probably not going to work as well, or you're gonna have to keep pulling pieces out. But if you have a Ziploc bag or something like, you know, this sturdy bag, that would be awesome. And then I have a spray bottle, which I'm gonna fill with water. So if you have one of these, that's awesome. And it will definitely come in handy. If you don't have one of these, that is okay. I will show you an alternative technique rather than spraying the paper, which we're going to be doing. Okay, but if you do have one of these, it would be very helpful. Okay, so let's get started. All right, the first thing I'm going to show you guys how to do is how to just make a basic marker monoprint. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to make a couple of my pieces of paper. I'm going to grab another one after this, but I'm going to cut out a couple pieces of paper that's similar to this size of bag, okay? So you either want it to be pretty close to the same size or a little bit smaller. In my case, I'm just going to go a little bit smaller, and I'm just going to honestly just overlap it a little bit, and then just trace the outside. If you want to do like a really nice line, you can do a light tracing, and then you can grab a ruler and really straighten those lines up, because I know that sometimes a bag is hard to trace, but you just want to make sure it is smaller than the bag. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out, and then I'm also just going to cut this remaining piece because I know that it's definitely smaller than the bag, and I'm going to use it as my second piece of paper. And they are not the same size, but that's definitely okay. Just as long as it's a little bit smaller than the bag, okay? Okay, for this next part, you are going to need your plastic bag, one of your pieces of paper, the Crayola washable markers, and then your spray bottle. So I do have my placemat, that my trusty world map placemat, just in case I make a mess, because we are going to be squirting this water. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take this bag, and I'm going to take maybe a few of my favorite colors that I like, and I'm just going to start coloring on the bag, okay? And it, like, don't worry about it like being a certain shape or whatever. Maybe overlap some colors. I'm gonna add some purple in there. Maybe a little bit of gray in here, I don't know. Okay. Gonna put some more green. And this is like, I'm just randomly doing this, but I am definitely trying to like fill the space if I can, okay? And this is random. I'm just going at this randomly. You might later on have a strategy for how you do this, but for right now, I am just coloring it however I feel. If you see, it's like not this, I don't even know if this is going to be in focus, but it's just random, and it definitely separates because it is on plastic, so it's not perfect streaks. Okay, so I'm going to set that to the side for a second. However, you do kind of want to do this somewhat in a quick manner. I'm going to take my spray bottle, I'm going to take my piece of paper, going to go ahead, whoop, and give it a nice spray. It is pretty wet, all right, but that's good. So now I'm going to take my plastic bag, I'm going to take my piece of paper, and I'm going to wet side down, put it onto the plastic bag. It will get a little bit messy. Like, see, I just got a little bit of the marker onto this side. That's okay, but try not to do it too much, I think. Okay, now I'm going to peel it off. And ooh, I have this fun design. It's very kind of watery and messy and splotchy, but like I love that. I think it's so fun. So the first time you do this, you're gonna notice kind of what is working. I might not spray it as much next time, or you might realize you need to spray it more. These colors, even though these are some of my favorite colors, I still think something needs to be a little bit brighter. So I might put more marker down, or I might put like a pop of red or some type of contrasting color with this, okay? So feel free to make as many of these like weird designs as you want, and you know, print as much as you want. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take a paper towel and kind of wipe this off, and then it will be a clean slate for the next print I'm gonna do, okay? Okay, so before I show you the next thing, I'm just gonna show you really quickly how to do this if you don't have a spray container or spray bottle at home. So let's see, I'm just actually gonna make sure that's dry. I'm gonna put some more marker down on this plastic bag. All right, so I'm gonna take one of my pieces of paper. I have a rag that I pretty much soaked in water. Again, if you're doing this, try to use a placemat if you can, because it will get messy and watery. But I have this soaked rag, and I'm just gonna kind of like squeeze a little bit of the water onto it, and then I'm just gonna like dab it around. You do kind of want a decent amount of water for this activity, just because you want those colors to kind of flow and get watery. So I'm gonna put that down, like I said before, wet side down, and just kind of rub it. I'm not going crazy because my hand is really wet right now, but just kind of make sure all corners have been hit. And let's peel it off. Ooh, I love that. I like how it kind of starts pooling right here. But it's the same technique, it's just one is with a spray bottle, one is with a wet rag, okay? You definitely, even though they are washable markers, you should probably set these aside to dry somewhere where you don't want it to get ruined. Like I have my placemat. All right, so I'm gonna show you a couple things you can do with the monoprints, like the basic monoprints we made from earlier. So I'm going to mount this on top of this purple piece of paper, and I like it because there's a little bit of purple in here and they're similar colors. You can certainly do this with any color paper you want. I'm just telling you what I like to do. So I'm gluing the back of this piece of paper. Make sure you get the corners. And then I am just trying to center it somewhat on here, okay? And make sure you really press down the edges. So then that just kind of looks a little bit, you know, more put together. So that just kind of puts a nice border on it and makes it easier to, you know, frame it or do whatever you want. if you didn't want to add, you know, a mat over it. But yeah, so that's just kind of a nice little border. Then the other thing, I already made this kind of card, and I cut out a piece that's somewhat smaller and from another monoprint, and I'm just gonna glue that on. So this is just a simple way to kind of jazz up a card and make it a little bit different. Okay, so that's not exactly centered, but you get the idea, and then you can write inside. But it's just kind of a nice, fun way. Whoop, I'm gonna rearrange that a little bit. But you can add designs on top of this, but it's just kind of a nice starting point for a card. All right, so those are two other things you can do. So you guys just learned how to make a basic marker monoprint. This next print we're gonna make is actually going to be using the same technique, except we're going to be adding a design into it. So same basic monoprint, but with a design. Now I'm gonna show you guys just like what you can do with this. So for example, I like to do some kind of random abstract designs on, well, just in general for my artwork. So I might start by taking my pencil and kind of just sketching like a random design, okay? And this can be anything. You could do like shapes that you already know, like stars, stripes, polka dots, like anything that comes to mind. I'm literally just doing whatever I feel like. And it's just random, and it's really meditative for me. Okay, so I have this random design, and maybe I'm gonna add more to it. Like maybe this whole thing is gonna be stripes. I see like this kind of thing, but I'm gonna go ahead and take my Sharpie, and it is a permanent marker. So we want, if you're gonna do something like this and draw on the actual piece of paper before you spray it, you're gonna want a permanent marker, just because it won't get messed up or blurry when you do add the water. So I'm gonna go ahead and just outline this. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I outlined my design. Again, completely random, just kind of going with what I feel. But notice that I didn't just do the same weight of line, meaning some are skinny lines and then some are really thick lines, some go from thin to thick. That's gonna help your design if you have different thicknesses of line, okay? So I have that all laid out, again, in permanent marker, and now I'm gonna go back to this bag, and I have no correlation between what I'm doing here and here, okay? So this is still gonna be random. I'm not trying to match anything up. If I did, it would kind of be difficult to do so, and that's kind of a longer process that we're not going to get into today, or that much. Okay, so I'm putting some yellow down, maybe some pink, and then some orange. So this is all going to be a similar color scheme. But please make sure you're really trying to cover a lot of this bag, okay? So like before, I'm gonna go ahead and spray. I'm gonna spray this somewhat heavily. And it might drip a little bit, but that's okay. Again, wet side down. And then I'm just gonna smooth it out. Try not to let that move too much as I move it. Off of the plastic bag, because you don't want it to get like super blended and smushed and blurred, okay? So I patted it down. Ooh, okay, I really am liking this one. It's mostly orange with little pink spots, but I really like this. So like by just doing a basic line design, and then doing like a marker monoprint with it, I think it's just a really interesting effect. It's kind of like watercolor, however, you'll notice that it dries a little bit differently, and the way it all kind of blends together is a little bit different than watercolor. But something as simple like this. So like you could do anything. I like random designs. However, you could write words, you could do like geometric patterns, you could do like flowers, you could do anything you wanted to do. You could write your name in bubble letters and then do this, okay? So the world is yours. I'm gonna show you another way of approaching a marker monoprint. One thing that I did forget to mention about doing a print like this is that say you make a design with your Sharpie and then you print it onto, you know, the marker, and you have this, and this is your end result. Say you're like, this needs something extra. You know what you can do? You can always go back in with Sharpie or any of the other markers. You just have to make sure that this is fully 100% dry before doing it. So make sure it's dry, and then you can go back into it. And I'm thinking that I might even add, I feel like I need to add something to this. It's just a little bit boring. So maybe you'll see that. All right, but feel free to add once it's dried. So this next monoprint I'm gonna show you guys how to make is a little bit more complex, and you can control your color a little bit better. It's not gonna be perfect. It's always gonna be somewhat of a surprise. But if you do want a certain color in a certain place on your print, that's what I'm gonna show you how to do. All right. What I'm gonna show you now is how to make it, if you wanna draw an actual picture and have the colors somewhat match up. So we can't do this perfectly, obviously, because when you spray the water, it gets a little bit crazy and it gets blurry. Like everything, as you can see, everything kind of blends together. However, we're gonna try to kind of control that somewhat. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to just sketch a pear really quickly. So one of my go-to things is drawing fruit. So if you're not sure what to draw, maybe look around your house and get inspired. But I'm just gonna include like a shadow, maybe a horizon line, like the line of the table. But I have the shadow. I'm going kind of sketchy. This is gonna be, you know, whatever your own style is. And you can add more detail, but for right now, I am just going to keep it like so. So what you're going to do, and this is where you really have to kind of pay attention to the steps, is I am going to flip this over, all right? And I'm going to put my plastic bag on top of it. All right, so I can see my outlined drawing through this bag, like even though it's upside down and everything. So now, like to get more controlled color, I am going to start coloring, like I see the outline of the pear, I'm going to start coloring the inside of the pear, and I'm just gonna do, like I have green, I'm probably gonna add a little bit of brown. You might not want to go too crazy with the amount of marker you're putting on. I'm going to do a little bit of yellow. I don't have red, but I might do just a little splash of orange. Okay, so let's get this green. And again, try not to move the bag while you're coloring this, all right? I'm gonna add a little bit of brown down here, maybe for the stem. And then I'm going to make the shadow like a little bit of green and then a little bit of blue. I just like adding blue to the shadows. So I'm going to then go over my horizon line. I'm not going to have it touch the actual pear too much, but I'm gonna kind of like work around it just because I know that these are gonna bleed so much that sometimes less is more. Might add a little bit of blue to that horizon line and then some other places. I'm gonna leave the rest just blank. Let's just see how it turns out for now. This is, so the next thing you have to do, slide that plastic bag over, and then what you're going to do is you're going to spray this piece of paper, you know, back to its normal side, the front side, and I'm going to like not spray it too much. It's gonna be one of the lighter sprays. Let's see. And honestly, it might still be a little bit too blurry, but let's see. You just don't want a ton of water. So, whoop! Okay, we got it. So now I'm going to flip this over wet side down, and what I'm gonna try to do is I'm gonna try to match like where my pear is on the plastic bag with my actual drawing. And if you have the same sized paper as the bag, then that's not an issue and you already know, okay, just match up the corners, but mine doesn't exactly match, so. Okay, I'm placing it down. Make sure the paper doesn't move after this step. And then just make sure you've pressed your paper down. Okay. And okay, I know like it looks really crazy, however, I really like this. I love that the colors are everywhere. However, we still know it's a pear and we still kind of have like, you know, some like resemblance of, okay, we have a table, we have the colors of the pear, we have the colors of the shadow. It still reads, and part of what makes this project so fun is that like you can't fully control it. It's just, it's going to be what it's going to be. You can control little bits of it, but nothing's going to turn out perfect, so it's always a surprise. All right, and I did make another one earlier, which I'll show you. I like what's happening here. I think this is maybe a little bit too messy, but you guys can be the judge of that, okay? But yeah, so that's how you would maybe try to match up the colors a little bit, although, you know, like I said, nothing's going to be perfect. Alright, so I just showed you guys how to make marker monoprints using 3 different techniques. My challenge for you is to try all 3 techniques this week and just have fun with it. If you really like one of those techniques, make a whole bunch with that technique. But have fun with it and don't think too much about it. Again, you can't control everything in this project, which is part of the beauty of it. I hope you guys have fun, and I will see you guys next week for another lesson.